So I, Dr. J.K. Grover, at the outset, would like to thank Grihaswamini for giving me this platform to express my views on the new education policy 2020. Well, I'm going to talk from the angle of the experiential learning, which has taken up from 2005, and I'm glad that they have reiterated the concept once again in the new economic policy 2020. But before that, let me dwell on the main points of the changes that the new economic policy 2020 has envisaged. Well, this is prepared by the chairperson, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, who has been an ISRO scientist, ISRO, that is Indian Space Research Organization. And in this he has taken the views of everybody from the panchayat level, very comprehensive view. So it makes the report is interesting. So I'm going to discuss a few changes here. Discussing about the changes or what are the modifications, let's start from the first change. Initially, the curriculum was designed as 10 plus 2 plus 3. That means 12 years of schooling, right from age 6 to 18 years, and then to your degree, graduation degree, etc. And 12 years used to be the state government, whichever board you belong to, whichever state board you belong to. Of course, we did have the central board also, but otherwise it used to be, say, Punjab board or Bihar board or whatever. And then you came to the university. Then you were handed over to the universities. But now it is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So what does that mean? That means for the first 5 years, that means education begins at age 3 and it ends at age 18, but 3 years more, early start. And these 5 years, that means 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So they were divided into pre-primary and classes 1 and 2. So before the class 1 and 2, it is like a play school. Children loved going to school. The idea was to see that the children loved going to school and they get used to playing with colors or learning through games, playway method of learning. And they would look forward, it seems that they look forward to going to school. And then you have the 1 and 2 years, which are the foundation level, where you do have these formative assessment going on. And then you come to classes 3, 4 and 5. They are known as the preparatory classes, where all subjects are taught. And then classes 6, 7, 8, middle. And then you have what is known as a secondary stage, from 9 to 12, that is 4 years. So in a total of 18 years. So this is the Right to Education Act, as we see. Everybody has to go through these. And another thing was there was no stream to be chosen, that you could take up any subject you would want to. And the second thing that we notice here is the language policy. So the language policy was that up till 5 years, the medium of instruction will be the regional language. You'll be taught in your regional language. The second change that was introduced, or we can see, is the language. So they felt that a child best learns in his or her mother tongue. Let's not kill the joy in learning by taking away their curiosity by teaching them in another language. Teach them in the language that they have grown up. They're just growing up. And it was felt by the committee that they would learn the best. It has been found out, they learn the best when they learn in their own mother tongue. So these years, these 5 years, they would be, the medium of instruction would be in the regional language, basically their mother tongue. And they felt that instead of learning a language to learn knowledge and in the process lose interest, that should not be it. So that was a basic idea about this 3-language policy, and then they would further learn another language and then learn a foreign language later on. So that was another change that was noticed. And then of course in classes 3, 5 and 8 there would be summative assessment. So summative assessment, as we see, would be in classes 3rd, 5th and 8th. And formative assessment in the form of, formative assessment always takes place. Even if anything that you teach, you would want a feedback. That is a formative assessment. And class 6 would be a real turning point where the child is big enough to be given a vocational training. That means we make him ready for taking up a vocation in life in case he doesn't make it with his studies. And when he's taught at this age, he takes it as a playway method of learning. So here they would be taught coding. Computers is today's rage of today as it is. And then they would any skill that he's fond of, if he's good with his hands, teach him something like that. Or if he's good at dancing, let him learn that. If he's good in whatever a person is good in, by this time the parents and as well as the teachers, as well as he himself with self-assessment, will know what to take up. You see that in the 6th class, the change that is there is like it's employable, to make them employable with the education received. And it could be anything. It could be weaving, pottery, agriculture-based activity of the region. It could be a folk dance. If he's good at writing, let him write stories and all that. So another change that was noticed was that a student can mix and match the subjects. There's a big buffet in front of him. He can make whatever he wants, he could take it up. So that was a big thing. So he could select whatever subjects that he wants to take up and what interests him rather. So that was another change that has been noticed. And then it was found that autonomy would be given to college. In this, let's just talk a little bit about the college. That after his +2, when he reaches college, he will be called a graduate. No more saying that he's a BA and BCom or BSc. He would be a graduate. So, and in the graduation would take 4 years. Now what is this? First year, if he's done a graduation course and suppose he leaves it, he will be marked for that and he'll be given a certificate, a graduate certificate. Suppose if he does 2 years and then he leaves after that, after 2 years he gets what is known as a graduate diploma. And in the 3rd year, he gets what is known as a graduate degree, which is good enough for any job or competition. But if he further studies, then he'll be called a research graduate. And then if he further wants to go into studies, so in this, what is important is a re-entry is possible. So if you've done 1 year and left, you will leave with a graduate certificate. If you leave after 2 years, you leave with a diploma and graduate. And you can continue your studies thereafter. So you haven't lost anything. You haven't lost your precious years that you gave up, you have put in for studies. So for whatever reason, sometimes here because due to poverty reasons or due to other reasons you're not able to pursue education, you can take it up. So re-entry is possible, and for post-graduation, it'll be 1 year after 4 years, or it'll be 2 years after 3 years. So for post-graduation, if you have done a 4-year graduate course, that means you're a research graduate, then you just need 1 year of post-graduation. But if you've done 3 years and you have got a graduate degree, then you got to do 2 years of post-graduation. And they've finished with the MPhil degree, and the PhD will be for 4 years in a row. So that's another change that we see. Sometimes it has been seen, I think before also we had this. So they've come to that. Then another thing is autonomy will be provided to the private colleges. So affiliation will not be required after some time, and the private colleges will follow their own course and they chalk it out. They needn't be affiliated to any college. And another thing that has been written is that has been decided is at least 6% of GDP should be spent on education. That is to improve education. It is very important. And the Ministry of Human Resource Development will be renamed as the Ministry of Education. So, and another thing as we were talking about is private schools. The fee structure, that will be limited. They'll be put into different categories, and they can charge only up to a certain level. That'll be decided. And another thing is that result in the sense assessment. It'll be a multifaceted assessment, not just the teachers. It'll be by the student himself, by his peers, by his own friends. Then and there'll be so many things that he will self-assess himself. So that's a very good thing, that because later on in life it is we who assess ourselves at every level. So why not start early? Let him know how does he react to what. And another thing which will make him more sociable or empathetic towards his friend will be that they are going to judge him, and he has to judge them too. So that way this is a very interesting concept that I found, is that it'll be a whole very comprehensive report card, which is not just marks but so many attributes. So many of his attributes will be judged by his peers, by his teachers, by himself, by his parents. So all this while we were going on with an education system, we talked about which had the Macaulayan system of education at its base. So this is like the syllabus was chalked out, the course of study, the pedagogy, all in great detail. And the outcome was a disciplined learning in classrooms where the teacher's only job was to see that the syllabus is complete and the children have learnt by rote, if nothing else. That means, because in a way the teachers were seeking 100% result, so strict discipline compliance was looked into, with a lot of tests and retests given to strengthen rote learning. In fact, the teachers were also not equipped to handle out-of-the-box learning. So a lot will change if this new economic education policy does come through, and if it is well implemented. The teachers' training will have to really take on a lot of changes will be seen in this sphere too. The result of this kind of teaching was that many a student who had different skills they were squashed. They could not even, they for life felt that they were good for nothings. So this has changed, and there is a story about the result of a jungle school in which the elephant has failed and the giraffe has failed because they couldn't climb the tree. So how a banyan tree, and old banyan trees are supposed to be very wise, they said no, they don't need to climb the tree. They can, the monkey came out first. I mean, all the monkeys passed. So they said no, these guys don't. Fish had come out first in swimming, but just couldn't do anything there in that school. So in this way, I mean, this particular thing is this type of education will teach us that every child must be fitted with separate syllabus. Like this will be, if we follow this 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, we will come to a decision as to what the child actually can do and should be encouraged to do. And in this, we need a participation of both the parents, the teachers, as well as the student. So even that way, I feel this is going to be a good education policy. If it is. The new education policy also talks about what is known as experiential learning. And I came across this wonderful story of experiential learning. It's a 300-page CBSE book. It is a story by Padkar Kumar, that means reading to read boy, and Karkar Kumari, that means learning by doing girl. And it talks about joyful learning, how the aim of teaching, the period of learning should be full of fun. And in the epilogue, it has been Swami Vivekananda has been quoted where he says, the present system of education is all wrong. The mind is crammed with facts before it knows how to think. So there's a need to change, and that's what the new education policy is trying to do. So let's see if they can do it, because he also said that it's experience that is a teacher throughout. You learn with experience, and let's learn with our little experiences when we are young and we are really small, rather than wait for the end to put your experience. That should be inculcated as we grow up. So the new education policy, the objectives are basically to bring about, to inculcate the Indian culture and to make available to students to be proud of one's heritage. Where we had our gurukuls, we had our the old system of learning, where we also had the great universities. We had the the Buddhist way of learning. Then we've had great universities, the Takshila, the Nalanda University, and the importance is, and of course, like as Sanskrit, they have talked about that Sanskrit should be taught so that people can revisit their past. They can learn from there. They can read for themselves the scriptures and find how rich our culture was, and appreciate the heritage, rich heritage of knowledge that is there. And our value system, let's take the good values and build on them, and be world citizens that the world is proud of. We are proud, and we can integrate as great citizens. Well, in conclusion, I can say that it seems to be a cumulative effort of so many. We can't even name them, but just to name a few, it could be, say, Swami Vivekananda, then Shri Rabindranath Tagore, then we also have, say, Mrs. Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, Dr. Kapila Vatsyana, we just lost her recently, and so many others, just so many. Our ex-president Abul Kalam Azad ji, so many of them, all of them stressed on the holistic learning, and all these thoughts processes have trickled down to making this policy towards a wholesome human being with great human values, with Indian culture, and ready to change the world. Right now, to me, almost it feels like impossible. And is it an impossible image of an Indian? Well, let's see how the implementation takes place, because on paper it's the most beautiful policy. The new education policy is a policy in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction. We have taken the first step. Let's see the implementation. They are saying that it will take some time, and say 2040 or so. So yes, let's see what happens. It looks so good. I mean, when you read it, to me it feels like a fairy tale, and it feels like becoming a kid once again to learn. And it is, and yes, the first step indeed is very difficult. But let's remember, कदम बढ़ाया है मंजिल मिल जाएगी, गर राह जरा मुश्किल, घबराना कैसा, हिम्मत से काम लेंगे, घबराना कैसा. And I'm sure we are going to, if the implementation is good and nobody messes up with their own policies and politics and brings this and that, on paper it seems such a good policy. And really, we hope that the new education policy 2020 brings the changes that it envisages. Thank you so much.